Hey all, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. I recently made a video all about CrossFit in steroids, and my thumbnail said CrossFit is made for steroids, which is a pretty controversial statement to make, of course. And the description in my video are CrossFitters doing steroids. And so I just skimmed over the topic. This is something that I've been fascinated in for a while. There are people who would tell you that you are naive if you think that all of the CrossFitters are not doing steroids. And then there are other people who believe that the majority of the field is clean. So you've got people on both sides of the spectrum. If you're not somebody who is on the inside, right, and knows these athletes personally, or is on the inside of CrossFit and the drug testing and all that, it can be a mystery. And I think that the more people dive into that world and learn about that world, the more that some of this stuff can start to be revealed a little bit, and you can start to make some informed decisions. Unfortunately, there's just so many people out there who have these opinions, and they are not informed opinions whatsoever. They are opinions based off bro science, or just based off very, very little information at all. And in the past few years, I've been diving into this area more and more, looking into performance enhancing drugs and steroids in the sport of CrossFit, and really trying to figure out who's really just genetically gifted and the freak athletes, and are these athletes taking something? How much would they benefit from this? And so I'm going to dive into some of my comments here, and I'm going to go ahead and dive in some of the comments on my last video and address some of the comments. I responded to all of them, I believe, but I just want to address them in the video and just go over my views on each one of them. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a little bonus rant that I'm going to go on about PEDs and steroids in general. And so that should be a fun little rant. And so you want to stay tuned for that. But we're going to start with the most popular comment that I had. And this video for me was had the most engagement of any other video I've done on YouTube yet. The most views, the most engagement, all that. So I'm going to start with the most popular comment. And this comment said, in my opinion, human nature dictates that if CrossFit doesn't rigorously test, then most, if not all, athletes are using, especially with money involved. And and I would say that while you can't use that logic to fully say that everybody in the field is on steroids, that statement does not prove, even if they didn't test at all, it does not prove that anybody's on PEDs, even if they don't test at all, right? It doesn't necessarily prove anything. But I do understand exactly what this person's saying, and I do agree, even though I don't think that that statement proves that people are on PEDs. I think that it does, because CrossFit doesn't rigorously test, it does make it easier for people to use. And I agree that when money is involved, that people are going to find ways and advantages to get to the top. And they are going to, even if money's not involved, people want to be the best. And if you watch some of these documentaries, I recently watched one about, I don't butcher the name, Balco Labs or Balco Industries, and Tim Montgomery, track and field athlete, he was talking about that at one point he would literally do anything to be number one, even if that meant, I think he said, even if that meant dying. He was literally willing to die and do whatever it took to get to number one. And that involved using PEDs or whatever that he claimed that he did. I don't want to speak for him, but I agree. Once money's involved, once fame is involved, once ego is involved, there are going to be people who do. The question is, what percentage, right? What percentage of people are using? I would never say that nobody's using. I would never say that everyone's using. But the question is really how many people are, and are the top athletes using something? Or is it truly possible for the human body to achieve the things that they have achieved without doing anything? And I think we would all love to know that. And so we would all love to see CrossFit doing the most vigorous testing in the world, because we're talking about a sport, like I said in my last video, that I believe is the best candidate. CrossFit is the best sport for steroid use in the world. CrossFit athletes would benefit the most for steroid and PED usage out of any sport in the entire world. So for us as viewers, we would love to see super, super strict testing because we want to see what really the natural human body is capable of. I don't really want to see what enhanced athletes are, well, I do want to see what enhanced athletes are capable of as well, but I'd like to see that separated into two divisions, personally. And, because if you allow drugs in the sport, the problem is that it just becomes a competition of who's willing to sacrifice their health the most, who's willing to get the closest to death, and it becomes a drug experiment and a science experiment, and not so much a test of the athletes themselves. All right, so enough on that one. We'll go to the next one. This person said, I once saw an interview with a recent CrossFit champion. When asked if he was on steroids, his reply was, how could steroids even help with CrossFit? That answer told me he was definitely on them. Yeah, I mean, I agree that in this sense, that is the dumbest statement, the dumbest response possible to that question. If he was asked if he's on steroids, he thought, how could they help? I agree. It's kind of one of two things. Either this dude it's really one of three things. Either he's super ignorant, doesn't really realize how much steroids could help. And I doubt somebody with like that much knowledge to get to a high level in CrossFit wouldn't understand even at some baseline level that steroids would help. Or that person's trying to cover up for CrossFit, right? Maybe that person doesn't use, but they're just trying to shut it up. I mean, I can understand. Like if you don't use, like just getting sick of getting asked that question, because I've been up until this point completely natural, and it really does get, like at first it would compliment people when somebody thought that I was on something, but then it started to get kind of annoying. Like it really did when people would kind of be like talking behind my back or just assuming that I'm on something. People have made little comments and things just assuming that I'm on PEDs, and it does get kind of annoying. So after a while, you just kind of want to shut that up. So I can understand that to a certain extent, just literally wanting people to shut up. But then I agree, it could be a lie. It could be completely a cover up, and which to me is a dumb cover up. It's just not a smart way to go about it, but it could be a cover up. Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's just a terrible response. I don't agree that it means he's definitely on them. I don't really follow that line of reasoning. I can see how that makes that a possibility, and it opens up the door to say that he's potentially lying for sure. But to say that means he's definitely on them, I don't think that's good logic. But man, I agree. That answer really ticks me off. And then they go on to comment, I went to a CrossFit gym for about 9 years. Steroids would be an immense help. 100% agree. Steroids would be an immense help. I mean, there's no way to deny that. Not only would they help with strength and endurance, but the decreased recovery time would be huge. He said, you are correct that steroids alone won't make you a champion, but I don't see how someone not on steroids could compete against those that are. The edge is just too big. And I agree 100%. I mean, when you can take, and as I've dove into this world of performance enhancing drugs and trying to learn more about them, when you realize that there's certain steroids you could do. There's certain steroids I could do right now, and my bench press could increase by 50 pounds. And we're talking in a very short window that my bench press could go up that much. 50 pounds. And that increase in strength is tremendous. And it's not just the strength. I mean, there's drugs for endurance. There's all kinds of things. So getting your body composition dialed in, and body composition matters to a certain extent. All those things. And I agree that edge is just too big. If you have two athletes, they're both top tier natural athletes that are at the top of the pack, and you put one on a great PED regimen, that one he's gonna be way better. And not only necessarily just way better, but like, again, I agree, the recovery aspect. Like, that person is probably gonna be more healthy, less injuries. One of the biggest things that stops people from progressing from linear progression in their workout programs and workout plans is the fact that they get injured. And not just like super big injuries or anything like that, but like those little nicks, those little aches and pains, and those little things where all of a sudden your shoulder's hurting for 2 weeks, so you got to back off. You can't do anything overhead for 2 weeks. Oh, you got some kind of feeling in your lower back. Now you can't squat for 2 weeks. Like all those little things, and man, they add up over years and years and years, and they keep you from that linear progression. Whereas somebody who's on PEDs, like a lot of times, if you watch and you listen to these people that program for athletes on PEDs, their linear progression is just goes up from week to week to week. So the edge is going to be too big in the long run. I agree. Great comments. Thank you so much for commenting, both of you. The next comment, when Rich Froning said he doesn't do steroids and he didn't even see how it would help, that gave your answer. They absolutely do. CrossFit originally in the beginning was telling women don't worry about lifting heavy because you won't. Okay, so I'm going to break down the first part of this first, because I agree. Yes, Rich Froning saying that he didn't see how they would help, that's ridiculous. He should know better. I don't think that means he's necessarily on them, but it does make me speculate 100%. And it does open up that door that could be a lie and a cover up for using 100%. I don't think that it means he's definitely on him. I don't think that gives us our answer for sure. I don't, but I'm not an expert in telling if people are lying or not, right? But very faulty logic on Rich's part to me. Okay, so I love this comment at the end. CrossFit originally in the beginning was telling women don't worry about lifting heavy because you won't look like a guy unless you're on roids. Well, now that so many women in CrossFit look like dudes, they answered their own question. And while I say, the women are pretty jacked in CrossFit, and so yeah, it was kind of, CrossFit did kind of mess up a little bit there in the beginning by saying, because if you look at the women in the beginning of CrossFit, they did not look like they do now. Could that be because of the evolution of CrossFit? Could that be because we've just weeded out all of the bad athletes, and now survival of the fittest, all the good jacked athletes, top athletes are there, and they look different. They're a different species of freak athlete. But yeah, I mean, gosh, now the women are super jacked, and CrossFit kind of shot themselves in the foot by saying that before, right? And could it be that CrossFit was just wrong at that time and they didn't realize how jacked a woman could get? Yes, but then at the same time, when you look at how jacked women are in CrossFit and you compare them to bodybuilding, and when you look at enhanced athletes, right, and then the CrossFit athletes look more jacked than the enhanced, and by enhanced I mean the athletes on gear, PEDs, steroids, all that. When the CrossFit athletes look as jacked or more jacked than them, you have to question it. And without a drug test, without seeing for sure, I can't say, hey, for sure this person is on something. I could never accuse them of that. But at the same time, like, you look at it, and if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, acts like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? Okay, moving on to the next one. I love that comment. Froning could win a bodybuilding competition, so yes. But I think the more telling signs is the top women. The human body is not capable of naturally recovering from that type of load and volume multiple days for weeks, months, and years on end. However, just because you take drugs doesn't mean you'll be the best. So if everyone is doing them, then it comes down to genetic potential, work ethic, and mindset. Timo25203, thank you for that comment. I think that wins the comment of the day for me. I 100% agree that, Froning, the fact that he could win a bodybuilding competition, some of these people are so jacked, the women are so jacked, it has to make you question. It has to make you question. I agree. The body's just not capable of... I mean, I don't know what kind of... I only know from hearsay what kind of volume those CrossFit Games athletes are doing, and you see what Rich does. And I don't know that I really know 100% what these people really actually do day in and day out, because I've never trained with them beside of a CrossFit Games athlete every day. However, I do know some people that are very high level, and they can withstand a large amount of volume and a large amount of training, and it's pretty freaky what they're able to handle. Even as a kid, I remember my dad was a brick mason, laid brick, block, stone, and would work all day, 8-10 hours, extremely hard work, and then go home and then go to the gym and work out for 2 hours like a complete animal. And at that time I was young and I didn't really understand. And maybe he was on something, I don't know. I mean, he wasn't like super huge at the time, but then again, that doesn't really necessarily mean anything. Maybe he was on something, I don't know. But I saw, like, I've seen people's ability to just handle a massive amount of workload and a massive amount of volume But at the same time, just because you can handle that volume and handle that workload, it doesn't mean that you might be able to handle it, but you might not be able to recover and make progress. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, I've seen people be able to handle it, but are they at the top? No. And does that mean if these people who can handle that load were on PEDs that they'd make it at the top and they're already pretty close? Maybe so. However, just because you take drugs doesn't mean you'll be the best. 100%. If everyone's doing it, then it comes down to genetic potential, work ethic, and mindset. So whatever the case is, we've got to level the playing field. If everyone's on PEDs, then still the people with the biggest work ethic, with the best mindset, who take it seriously, who have the smartest approach, the best genetics, like they're going to win if everyone's on PEDs. And if everyone's not on PEDs, it's the same thing, right? The people that win are going to have to be working hard and be extremely smart. Next comment, check out Andrew Hiller videos on this topic. Hiller Fit, yes. He has several, CrossFit, Natty or not. They're worth watching. I get what you're saying. You definitely are not presenting anything false with the sport of CrossFit. The benefit of steroid use and performance-enhanced drugs is more relative to the individual and the sport they are participating. I think it'd be hard to convince the majority that there's literally not a sport on the planet better for steroids and performance-enhancing drugs. Yeah, and every sport would benefit from that. The use of those drugs, he says, I even mentioned at the end, MLB, NFL, cycling, track, and field benefits here are insane. Billions of dollars being thrown around. Just take MLB, right? Individuals making hundreds of millions because of it. Hundreds of thousands filling stadiums to watch 450-foot bombs, 105-mile fastballs. Tens of millions tuning into TV networks, fame and fortune pretty high on the list, right? I mean, yes. So all those sports are benefiting greatly. I think, though, that like CrossFit athletes, because the sport is predominantly physical, because it is like there's a lot of skill, but to me not as much skill as baseball, right? And there are so many physical elements involved, so you can't specialize, because when you can specialize in something, I'm not saying it's easy to get to the top, it's easier to get to the top if you're specializing. If I specialize in Olympic lifting, it's going to be a lot easier for me to reach my own genetic potential in just Olympic lifting. But in CrossFit, you're just doing it all. And so it makes it really hard to reach your genetic potential in any of it because you're doing it all. Yeah, and your body can only recover so much and blah, blah, blah. And so CrossFit to me is the best candidate for steroids. Andrew Hiller, great. I've watched a ton of his Natty or Not videos. I've watched a lot of those. He's one of the people that I've followed who are going, looking into who's natty, who's not. He's open and talking about being on TRT, things like that, and how much benefits it has given him, which I think is super cool, man, because, he's really stepped out there and put himself out there as, and taken a lot of heat for it, taken a lot of flack for it. He's never going to be able to be called natty again because he did go on TRT and these things, right? And kudos to him for just stepping out there and doing it. Because really, we do want to see that. We want to see somebody. And Hiller, he's a great athlete, right? I want to see somebody who's at the top, at their prime, genetically natural, and then go on PEDs and see how much it actually enhances them. And if you know of any videos out there or people who have actually done that, I would love to see that. I'd really love to see somebody in their prime, really training for the games and how much it really bumps them up to be on something. Just another comment, just look at the female CrossFitters and tell me they're not on roids. Yeah, I mean, I feel you on this. The female physiques are just highly suspect. Next comment, even low-level local comps have people running juice. 100%, man. People are going to do it. People do it recreationally they're not even competing. I mean, there's people who are just going to the gym and they're taking stuff just so they can out bench press their buddies or whatever. So like people are going to take it even on the local level for sure. Every gym has roid abusers, but CrossFit is just lame. Those pull-ups they do, that comment's not even worth addressing. Okay, here's this one. You are kidding yourself if you think these people are not on anything, just from the recovery aspect alone, and them able to do all this stuff. Yeah, I disagree with this one. So I commented back. I said, so you are saying they are all on PEDs? Like, to me, you cannot say they're all on PEDs. And I have seen some genetic freaks. I mean, some genetic freaks, and young people who I know were not on anything. I mean, I'm 99% sure that their parents did not have them on something at 12 years old. And I'm not saying parents don't do that. Parents do all kinds of things that are a lot worse than that. So I know it's possible. But like you do, there are genetic freaks out there, and I've seen it. So to me, I don't know. I can't say at this point in time that the whole entire field is on something. I agree that there's probably a lot. Okay, this person commented back to me, and I actually have not seen this one, and looks like an interesting comment. This is a different person who commented on that person's comment, and they said, yes, they are all on steroids. All of them who compete are on steroids. The thing about steroids that most people don't know is how to use it and when to use it. An average Joe like you who doesn't know how roids work properly might use it and you don't see any results. But if you are guided by Lance Armstrong's doctor, he will know how to hack your body and make the cycle work specifically for you. Oh, yeah, I agree 100%. I would never say that steroids would not work for somebody like me. I really feel like they would work 100% for me. I feel like, yeah, they would work for anybody, and that is trying to be the best. Another comment, Roid Rage. That's funny. This person said they want Froning's protocol. Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of some of the comments here kind of repeating themselves. But at this point, I want to kind of go on to my rant about this topic, because everybody that does not know about this, they think that average Joes, and I'm talking about people that aren't even on, like, I've always finished top 10% in CrossFit. Top 3% was my highest finished. My last Masters finish in the beginning, in my age division, there was 30,000 men. I ended up finishing in quarterfinals, 360th. So out of 30,000 men, I ended up 360th. So I'm pretty decent in the sport of CrossFit. I mean, I've got decent numbers. I'm not elite, but I'm advanced, right? And there are people that are way lesser than me in the sport, right, that think that if they did steroids, they would be number one, that they would be Rich Froning. There are people in jiu-jitsu. I've been doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. There are people in jiu-jitsu that are just not very good or not very strong, and they think that if they did steroids, they would automatically be the best in the world. They'd be Gordon Ryan. And that is simply not the case. And that's my rant that I want to go on, is that if you are not already genetically gifted, if you are already if you're not that top 1%, if you're not that freak athlete that you walk in the gym and you stand out above everybody else, if you are not already that person naturally, you are not going to be number one by taking steroids or performance enhancing drugs. It is just simply not going to happen. You're not going to get that much gains. You're not going to be that good. All the people that are at the top are already those 1%ers. They're already those genetic freaks who already people thought they were on steroids before they were even using. Yes, these are the people that people thought they were on PEDs before they even started taking them. Look at pictures of Ronnie Coleman before he got on steroids. Look at pictures of Ronnie Coleman. This dude was a complete freak. You would have 100%, if we were doing a natty or not on him, we would have 100% said he was on roids before he actually got on them. And if you're not that person who already is that freak, then chances are they are not going to get you there. So let's just squash that. Let's put that to rest. There are too many people that just throw off on the people that use PEDs and say, oh, they're cheating. Oh, they're not working hard. Oh, I could do it if I was on PEDs. Or, even the whole deal of people who saying, oh, I could get to the top in CrossFit if I didn't have a job and I could work 8 hours a day, I could get to the top. Yeah, okay. Sure you could. Well, why don't you just quit your job and live in your parents' basement and work out 8 hours a day, right? If you could do it. Everybody thinks they could do it if their circumstances were different. And the truth is, if you're not already in that top percent, like, man, I know some people that are good. Like, they're way better than me, and they are still not even, have never even, they're not in the top, they're not going to make it to the semifinals and all that stuff. in the regular age divisions, right? I mean, and they are good. But the problem is, once you get to the top, like once I got to the top 3% in CrossFit, I thought I was close. And I realized that even if you're in the top 1%, it's ridiculous how far you have to go if you're in the bottom of that 1%. It is insane. The difference between the people in the bottom of that top 1% in the world and the people at the top of that 1% in the world, insane. The difference and what it takes to get to the top, right? So all that to say, man, it's not worth it. It's not. Don't go out and do PEDs if you're somebody that's not already at the top. Like, I mean, I ain't suggesting you do them, period, but like, dude, it's ridiculous to think that that's somehow going to make you into that freak athlete if you're not that already. And I hope that makes sense. That's it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Please drop those comments again. Would love to talk about them. Would love to keep this conversation going. So thank you again so much for watching.